Hello. Yes, I'm pretty sure I'm recording this time. Hopefully I am. Not saying this is like my fifth time trying to record the same video. Uh, 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 uh. Wait, first. Okay, and now let's get right into the video. 6 true scary stories. 6 scary stories. True scary horror stories. Reddit lit. Let's not meet and others. I don't know why I'm chewing my finger. I'm just a bit nervous. I'm trying to chew my nails because I am a bit nervous. But hold on.
She's hunting Jedi survivors.
I just gotta. Yep.
We have to stop them.
There we go. Clickety clack. We are back. We're going to be reacting to scary stories. If my computer stopped acting dumb. Thank you. And yes, I can see
I
my
was born in
screen.
Long Island, New York. I was born into a family that included my mum, my dad, both 19 at the time, and my older brother, who was 2 years older than me. My sister would be born 3 years later. My dad was actually kicked out of his house when he was 17 because he refused to get rid of my brother and moved into my mum's parents' house, who were very accepting and amazing people. The whole family was very close, considering that we all lived within a few streets of each other. 5 months before my brother was born, my grandma passed away. Around 6 years later, my mum did as well. I was 3. A few more years later, my uncle died, and finally, when I was 12, my grandpa died. We lived in my grandpa's house all throughout this time because he was sick and needed our help from day to day. Apart from this, though, other relatives died over the years, mostly from old age. What I'm getting at here, though, is that it just seemed like death surrounded us, and naturally, that comes with ghosts.
Sure.
I'd like to think that I'm a pretty logical person and tend to explain away many things, but there are some that I just simply can't. Let's start with the girl in the bathroom. So I think that I was about 5 the first time that I saw her, and she was a young woman dressed in what looked like a dress from probably the early 1900s. She would stand in the bathroom, and I could see her from my room, and she would just stare in the mirror, almost admiring herself. I was never really creeped out or anything, because she was just kind of there. The last time that I saw her was when I was about 8, probably was about the 5th time that I'd seen her. She was doing what she always did when, for the first time ever, she acknowledged that I was there. She looked behind herself in her reflection and made eye contact with me, and she smiled and then she waved. She turned and walked into the bathroom and...
Dude, I'm trying to record a video. Shut the F up. Sorry to break the ambience.
Yeah, that's funny.
Dude, for real, can you try to be more... Hey, I'm trying to record a scary video, and I can only do this in one take. Can you try to be more quiet? Thank you.
into the living room, and after that, I just never saw her again. Every once in a while, too, when I was 10 or so, I'd be trying to fall asleep when I would hear a man and a woman just fighting. Naturally, I would think that it was my dad or grandpa watching TV or something, but when I would wake up and ask them why the TV was so loud, they would say that they didn't watch TV, or my dad would say that he was at work. I never saw them, but I heard them a handful of times, and I never made out what they were saying, but they always sounded just so angry. So, another story from my dad about my brother and I. My dad said that when my brother and I were kids, we'd be sitting somewhere and we would just start giggling and pointing and say, "Doggy, bow wow." My mum was convinced that we were seeing a ghost of a dog
So
who died from
random.
choking on a chicken bone when she was little, but who knows? Like I said, Mum died when my sister was only a few months old, and my dad swears up and down that once every few months he would hear singing coming from her room while she was sleeping. He's convinced that it was my mum singing a song that she sung to all of us when we were little.
Okay, hold on. Hold on. I need to break the magic. This thing, I love this thing. It's just it gets kind of hot under there. Sorry to break the magic, but I'm gonna leave it off. And don't worry. My face will still be covered. Hold up. I need to get something. Hold up. Look into his dark green eyes. There we go. Hold on. Oh man, there's another crack in it. I thought this. You know, I'm the broken Jason. Broken down, collecting. Never had the chance to prove what it is they were built to do. Doomed to fail the final night and look off in all eternal jail. You want to live, don't hold your breath. This isn't life, it's living death. Not to fear, we're most humane. You'll never be yourself again. But for real, sorry for singing. It's just that if you can name that song, you have a giveaway coming your way very soon. I may give away one of my old phones. I may sign something. Who knows? Let me turn up the volume so y'all can hear it better. Well, the video better. So, clickety clack. We are back.
We moved out of my grandpa's house when he died when I was 12, and the big thing my dad wanted to keep was my grandpa's guitar, but he just couldn't find it anywhere. He searched the whole house multiple times, but just couldn't find it. And the day that we were going to leave, my dad smelt a fishy ocean smell just out of nowhere. My grandpa loved taking us to the beach and always liked salt and fish. My dad didn't want to know where it was coming from, so he went into the kitchen and eventually it just went away. He then went to the living room and it was back. After a few minutes, he realized that it smelled.
Oh my gosh, bro.
I'm serious. I need to do this all in one take.
Not like it was going upstairs. Long story short, he followed it to the closet and he searched multiple times, and in it was the guitar. Now, I played the Ouija board with a few friends a few months back. I was over it and stopped playing. The board then proceeded to say Puppy, which is what we call Grandpa, Don, my uncle's name, and Lou, my grandma's nickname. My friends never knew anything about them, and I asked my grandma what she said to my mum before she died to see if my friends were messing with me. And it said, predict. I literally almost cried because right before she died, she told my mum my brother was a boy. My mum didn't find out that he was until he was born months later. I think some of my family from that house followed me over the years, even though I'm 21 now. I definitely feel it the most in the room that I'm making it.
Hold up. I don't like this mask because it's broken. This one bit the dust. Okay, I think that's better. And this one even glows up, so why didn't I choose this one first? Because it kind of gets a little hot like the others.
It's my daughter's nursery. I'm having a girl in December, and I always think that I see my mum, especially in there. I have so many more stories too that I would love to share another time, but this will have to do for now as I need to get going. Thanks for listening.
I don't want to watch an ad. My viewers don't want to watch an ad before it goes to an ad. That's even if I get monetized. Okay, so to recap what he said. First story went like this. He would normally get up in the middle of the night. Growing up from 5 on up to he's 21 now from the video, and he used to see a woman inside his bathroom every time he, got out to do his business. And for some reason, the woman never acknowledged him. And then one day, he went to the restroom. The woman acknowledged him, turned to him, smiled, and like waved. And then next day, he didn't see her at all. Second story was death surrounded his family, as in everyone around him, his grandma, his grandpa, grandma, and uncles kept dying of natural causes or something else. And he and and he kept hearing voices come from different rooms every time his family member would die. Another story he told you probably didn't catch up on is he played with an Ouija board. I know it's pronounced Ouija. Don't need to correct me in the comments. I just pronounce it Ouija because funny. But him and his friends played with an Ouija board, and the Ouija board actually spelled out his grandfather's nickname, his grandma's nickname, and the friends he was playing with didn't know their nickname. And then he asked the Ouija board what was the last words that my grandma said to my mom before she died. It said predict. And his grandma before he died said her last words to the dude's mom was, "Your son will be a boy." No, a girl. And I think that what it was. But either way it goes, she didn't know it was going to be a girl until, the baby was born. So not only the grandma predicted the future, but she also came back in the form of a ghost or spirit or whatever you want to call it. Okay, but now on to the next part of our little video. So clickety clack, we are back.
This happened about 15 years ago in a small town in Iceland. I was staying for Christmas with my ex-girlfriend's family. Her mother and grandmother lived in that town, and this happened in her grandmother's house. But we had visited her a couple of days earlier and stayed for lunch. It's not a big house, and I got pretty familiar with the surroundings that day. I remember walking the hallway to get to the bathroom, and I had to put my hand before my eyes because of the sun brightening up the place. I went in, locked the door, did my thing, and in the middle of it, the door just unlocked. It made this loud click when locking and unlocking, and I didn't think of it as something noteworthy. Old houses and all that, right? When I got out and I headed back to the living room, the hallway was just suddenly pretty dark. I just thought the clouds must have come over the place. Icelandic weather really shifts fast. But the second visit was supposed to be a longer stay, and we were to stay and help the old lady with chores and all that, and have dinner later that day. It was a beautiful winter day in Iceland too. Sunny, no clouds in the sky, cold and no wind outside. So we sat in the living room just relaxing, and me watching the football.
How can it be sunny and cold at the same time? You know what? We get those here in Ohio, so I can't complain.
TV. The ladies decided to go shopping, and they left me alone to watch the game. Now, in a living room with big windows, sunny clear day, you would feel really relaxed, right? But I just always had a nagging feeling that I wasn't really safe in this house. I can't explain it, but I just felt uneasy in there alone. But that feeling just got more and more localized towards the hallway as the game went on. I felt that I had to glance in that direction, and I don't know why, but I just had to do it. Again, the hallway was getting darker and darker, which was weird because the sun was still shining outside and there were no clouds in the sky. But at one point, it really just hit me. An overwhelming feeling of just panic that I was going to get hurt staying in there. In a split second, I stood up from the couch and I looked towards the hallway, and it was pitch black, and I mean that black that you couldn't see anything else in this darkness. And the worst part was that it was heading my way, slowly, turning this bright winter day into the coldest, darkest night. It didn't make any noise, and everything just got really quiet. I could only hear my own breathing and pulse, in fact. I honestly felt like I was in extreme danger, and at this point, I just ran out. I didn't speak to my ex about it for a long time, and at that time, I played it like I had to get something at her mother's place. I made excuses not to have to visit that house again, in other words. But when I told her about it, she told me a lot of stories from her childhood. From things getting thrown around to doors opening and shutting and noises with just no clear origin. Anyway, I just wanted to share my experiences. I still think about it from time to time. It's not happened to me again, both before and after that experience. But it sure is something that I'll never forget.
Okay, that's kind of creepy. Imagine going to someone else's house. Yeah, it's an old house, but if the shadow tried to swallow you, a shadow on a bright sunny day tried to swallow you, I would be scared so crapless that there will be a hole in my pants on how hard I crapped myself. Holy shit.
So, this was when I was like 17. I was staying in the psychiatric emergency care unit at the hospital. It's for short
Like
stays,
normal teens?
a week at most. They evaluate you and see whether they're going to ship you off to the proper psych hospital or send you on your way. Most people in this section aren't like crazy. Usually just attempts at your own life. People who had sort of manic episodes, drug or alcohol-fueled psychosis, or stuff like that. Anyway, it was a small area, a rec room, a short hall with 6 to 7 rooms. The nurse's office behind the glass at the end of the hall was there too, next to the rec room, and then like a little outside bit of some sort. Each person had their own room, and above the room was a light, and if the light was on, it meant that there was movement in the room. Now, one night, I convinced multiple nurses to give me a Valium before bed. We'd usually be given 1 or 2 at least, but going up to multiple nurses, I managed to hustle about 8. I was laying in bed, completely zoned out from the Valium with my hand over my eyes. I had left my light still on when, at one point, I hear my room door open. I assumed that it was a nurse checking on me, but I was completely zoned out. I didn't move my hand and just peeked through a tiny crack between my fingers. It wasn't a nurse, though. It was the dude in the room next to mine. And he was crouched down like a frog stance, kind of shuffling over to my bed, still in that position. I didn't move. I was pretty wigged out, but I was in such a haze that I thought that I've got to be dreaming. He was directly beside my bed, crouched down, head in his hands. He was whispering some really creepy stuff too, like how he was going to hurt people, and just inaudible nonsense. It took some time to process, but when I swung my hand off my eyes and sat up, he jumped up and just ran out of my room. At this point, the nurses noticed. One nurse followed him, and one came into my room and questioned me, and I explained everything. I was still calm from the Valium and insisted that there wasn't an issue and that I just wanted to go to sleep. I don't know what they said or did to him, but when I woke up the next day, he was completely normal and asked me if I wanted to go and play some cards, to which I politely declined.
to recap what just happened, he basically fell asleep, was stoned out of his mind because of the drugs that the doctors gave him. And somehow, a patient that was also in that quote unquote insane asylum for teens. Don't quote me on that. I forgot what he's called it. A Valium, I think that's what he called it. But another patient came shuffling across the floor like he was a frog, and then started whispering things like, "I'm going to murder people. I'm going to hurt people." And then the doctors came in and kind of quote unquote saved him after he sprung up trying to figure out what the heck is happening, after he realized it wasn't the drugs that's making him see things like that. Okay, clickety clack, we are back. Clickety clack, we are back. And it's I could have explained it through the app, but me being retarded as I am, didn't.
This happened when I was 4 years old. My memory of the events are quite vivid, as this was the closest that I've ever been to possibly dying. So, I was at the grocery store with my mum. But while she was buying groceries too, she left me outside to play on one of those pretend cars that you put a quarter in so it moves back and forward. We lived in a small town, so there was a feeling of trust in the community, and my mum felt safe leaving me out there by myself. The 4-year-old me was having the time of my life on that car. I didn't even notice that a man was standing nearby. A skinny and rather short man. He was sporting a trench coat that nearly touched his feet, and he looked like he was in his mid-30s and was already starting to bolt. Once the car ride stopped, the man walked up to me. I remember him kneeling down to me, letting out a wide grin and asking, "Hey, would you like another quarter, little lady?" "Sure," I said. He smiled and placed the quarter in my hand. He held onto my hand for quite a while.
I know what you're thinking. He said little lady, but remember, I hope you can see my cursor, but if you read the title correctly, it says from Reddit. Story, Reddit, let's not meet and others.
I put the quarter back in the machine and went for another ride.
That's why he called himself a woman.
He was watching me the entire time as well. Mum was taking a little longer than expected. The car ride was over again, so the man picked me up from the ride and stood me in front of him. "You know," he said, "I have a car myself. Do you want to come for a ride with me?" I remember being a little confused by the question. It's like I was starting to notice something was just a little off. "Don't worry," he assured me. "This ride is free of charge." He grinned again. He held out his hand, and I stupidly accepted it. We started walking towards his car, and it was this small dented thing that hadn't been cleaned in years, obviously. We opened his car door, and it was accompanied by a high-pitched yell from behind me. My mum, along with a large security guard, was sprinting towards me. The man, panicked, jumped in his car and drove off immediately. I was left in the parking space by myself. My mum grabbed and hugged me, and I could feel her tears running down my shoulder. I heard the security guard on his walkie-talkie requesting assistance, and, unfortunately, they never found the man. Thinking back to that day 20 years ago really puts things into perspective. I was possibly 10 seconds away from being taken forever, never to see my mum again. And the fact that this man is still roaming the streets absolutely terrifies me. And I sure hope that nobody else has gotten hurt because of him.
Recap. He almost got kidnapped. I should say this person that he's reading the story from got kidnapped. Nearly got kidnapped. If his similar story happened to me. One day I was at a park. My mom told me to stay at the closest end to the parking lot because she was at her car having a smoke or something. and this is only the second instance. So my mom was at the park, at the car, smoking, and I, for some idiotic reason, saw this tall black woman. She was handing out candy, and I said I wanted some of that too. So I got like a couple of Skittles, thinking they were innocent. My mom quickly saw this, kicked the woman, and smacked the candy out of my hand, and quickly got me in the car and drove off. And I asked my mom, why did you do that? She looked nice. That candy was poisoned because I didn't notice at first. My mom grabbed a piece of candy from her, that was in her hand. I think it was like, I think I said Starburst, but I could be wrong. But it looked like something was in it. I didn't see it at first until my mom like pointed it out, and I would have eaten that and possibly died. That was only the second time. The first time, my cousins, they're older than me. They're 20. They're I think one's 29 and the other's 21. I'm not sure. I just know my older cousins took me to the freaking park. What if me nearly dying at a park? Either way it goes, similar story. I I saw a man, didn't know who he was, and I was like 3 at the time. Around this subreddit's person's age, where they nearly got kidnapped. So I didn't think much of it. I tried to take some candy from a stranger. Remember, kids, never take candy from a stranger, because that man had my arm for a good 10 split seconds before my cousin came running over, kicked him in the dick. My other cousin grabbed me, and they both started sprinting towards the house, with dragging me behind because I didn't know what was going on. And I was in tears when I came back to my mom. She was like, "Why is he crying? What happened?" And she explained it, and my cousin explained it to me through the tears also in her eyes, saying, "Little Tony took candy from a stranger, and the stranger like grabbed him."
Why are you so loud?
But sorry, I didn't realize I was loud.
You got the door wide open.
I'll close the door. Sorry. There we go. Yes, my room is that small. But yeah, where was I? So yeah, through the tears in her eyes, she explained what happened to my mom. The stranger had my arm, was about to run off with me, and luckily they had quick enough reaction time, and I was this close from either getting raped and murdered or just kidnapped and sold off in a black market. So I'm glad that kind of traumatized me. Both of those moments. I'm surprised I didn't learn from the first moment. I was mostly focused on the candy. My mom said only reason why I was crying is because I wanted the candy. But clickety clack, we are.
This happened to me a few weeks ago. So I was attending an interview for an admin position at a small business. I was in the waiting area, sitting next to the other candidates, another girl my age. Now, when I say small business too, I mean that there's only the manager in the building, with us two. The manager peeked out of his office door and asked me to come in. He was an older man who had blotchy red skin and was starting to bald. I took a seat next to his desk and we began the interview. He asked the usual, tell me about yourself and why would you be a good fit for this position, etc. I was confident that the interview was going well so far, but then it just got really weird. He then asked me if I planned on working here until I die. I was taken aback by that. At the time, I thought that this was perhaps a trick question. I jokingly replied that I'll live forever. However, the manager wasn't humoured at all by this. He just gave me a horrible scowl, and I was feeling very uncomfortable, and at this point, I wanted to leave.
Red flag.
His next question, though, was also creepy, and he asked if I had a boyfriend. I replied with no.
Red
Again,
flag.
he gave me an ugly scowl. I was already planning my escape because something was definitely wrong with this guy. He then started scurrying through his desk and pulled out a really large lollipop, the kind with the spirals on them. And he said, "Oh, sorry, you seem a little tense. Here, take this." And he was licking his lips. My legs were
Red
trembling,
flag.
and I said, "Okay, sorry, sir, but I have to leave." And I rushed out of the office. I saw the other girl, and I told her to leave with me right now. We left the building and caught the nearest taxi out of there while I explained everything to her. And after this, the thought of going to another interview fills me with just so much dread.
You were seconds away from being raped.
So my best friend has been staying at my house for 2 days. He left for work at 6 a.m. this morning. He doesn't have any keys to get in the house, and he messages me this, but I don't reply because I'm at work. He texts me around 3:30 asking if I'm home. I tell him that I'm not. I won't be until around 6 p.m. I get home and he's in the house somehow. I ask him how he got in, and he tells me that I let him in. But obviously the door was locked and he has no keys, so there's no way that he got in any other way. He told me that he came to the house and tried the door before texting, and it was locked. He then leaves and comes back, and when he approaches the door, he said that it sounded like someone was coming down the stairs, so he knocked again, and seconds later, I open the door for him, say what's up, and run up the stairs. So he stays downstairs, and then 2 hours later, I came back home with my brother from work. Nothing is missing, and nobody was in the house, and if somebody was and they left, they'd have to go downstairs. But my friend was down there, and they said that they didn't see anything. What's really weird to me, though, is that I jog up the stairs when I go up. I also always shake his hand when I greet him, but he said that I just ran upstairs.
Okay. This should be a glitch in the Matrix kind of deal, because I've been reading a lot of glitch in the Matrix subreddit. Link is not in the description, so don't check. This should be a glitch in the Matrix because there's a common story of this man. He's in two places at once. Doesn't have a twin brother. Was never separated at birth, and his mom assured him that he's an only child. So, how is he literally in two places at once? His co-workers claim to see him in a break room, and then the next second, like literal split second, he's back at his desk working. He was one day at home, sick, with chicken noodle soup by his bedside, but yet everybody saw him working that day. He was sick. So sometimes there's an alternate reality that sometimes merges with our reality and kind of creates a copy of you by mistake. So what I'm saying is that could have been a parallel universe, her greeting her friend, her best friend, and unlocking the door. Because in a parallel universe, apparently you have the same door latch. But that's just a glitch in the Matrix story that I kind of like. But clickety clack.
The only thing that I've had happen here that was odd was I was downstairs in the mirror and I thought that I saw something run past me. In the moment, and sometime later, it still didn't even seem odd to me. I thought that I was just hallucinating or seeing something, but
Or it could just
now
be a rat.
it just creeps me out. I'm not really much of a believer in the paranormal, but I can't disprove it either. I don't think that he would lie, but even if he was, he still had to get in the house somehow. Also, I've been talking to him more to get details about the story, and this is what I got. I have both nostrils pierced, but 2 days ago it fell out at my girlfriend's house, so I only have my ring. He said that he saw both of them in my nose, and I had no facial expression. He also can't really recall what I was wearing because he says that it was a bit of a blur. And after basically interrogating him for like 2 hours, he stuck to the story, but he did add new details every time that he told me. So I'm leaning maybe to that he broke in and didn't want to tell me, but he's saying that he wouldn't lie about this. I'm really not trying to buy the whole ghost story because it just sounds ridiculous. I
Or
still
a
didn't
glitch
find
in the
any way that
Matrix.
he could have gotten in the house too, because I checked everything and found nothing opened or out of place. It's really frustrating though, because now I'm uncomfortable leaving and coming home knowing that something let him in the house, or that he broke in, and both are equally disturbing.
Okay, sorry you couldn't see my face for like most of this, but I didn't really get that scared over stories like this. Yes, I was scared of, like, these are true stories from true people, truly on the internet. How many times have I said truly in that sentence? I truly do. I don't know. But for real, true stories from people on Reddit, kind of creepy, and welcome to the month of October. I'm going to be trying to do this more frequently. Let's like this video because I actually got spooky, scaly skeletons vibe from this. But I did not mean to grab that one. I meant to grab this one. There you go. But I'm going to leave that episode here. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you can leave a like on this video, leave a comment, and yeah, I'll see you all next time or possibly tomorrow. Goodbye.